On today's episode of Locked On Wild, the Wild follow one of their worst games of the season with one of their best. The Wild needed a hero, and Matt Boldy delivered.
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team each and every day, and we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day as well. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss out on any new episodes as we tick down to the final 4 games of the season. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we'll recap one of the games of the year for the Minnesota Wild in which they had no passengers in beating the Dallas Stars 3-2 in overtime. We'll talk about some of the eye-opening comments after the loss to the New York Islanders, which you could not have 2 more polarizing games back-to-back than what we saw in the last 2. And we'll take a look at the possibility that Kirill Kaprizov makes his long-awaited return to the ice at exactly the right time. My name is Seth Toupal, host of Locked On Wild, credentialed media member, and we do get a Victory Micheletti Monday here today. I tweeted it out on Saturday that it would not shock me in the slightest if after a game that the Wilds felt like they needed to have against the New York Islanders, they didn't get. I said, watch the Wild beat the Stars on Sunday because nobody's expecting it. And that is exactly how this season has gone all year. And the Wilds did. They played a very good game. They were locked in from the beginning. The battle level was exactly where it needed to be. And the Wild got key performances from guys that we have been waiting to see step up into the lead role since Kirill Kaprizov left the ice. Everything that you could have hoped for in that Stars game we got. And how about this, Alex? When was the last time the Wild dominated a period offensively like they did against the Stars in the third? They outshot the Stars 17-4. We have not seen that level of puck possession from this Wild offense in a hot minute. And it is something that if they're going to, if they're going to finish strong in these final 4 and put themselves in position to test a team in the first round of the postseason, we got to have a lot more of that down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, that effort was against one of the best teams in the NHL and the Stanley Cup favorite. So yeah, that was impressive for sure. They kind of wore down the Stars. They knew that the Stars were on a back-to-back, or the back end of a back-to-back, and they had lost the night before. So they're kind of in a down mood to begin with, and they took it to them, and it was a frustrating game, I'm sure, for them, just because they were putting on good shots on Ottinger. He was just he always does well against the hometown squad, and they found a way, and good for Marcus Foligno too. He's been having an awesome season through all the ups and downs, through all the other Wild forwards. He's shown up. So yeah, kudos to Marcus for getting that big goal, and they pulled it off in overtime. It's nice. It's when you get a power play in overtime, if you don't score, it's kind of embarrassing just with the extra open space you have. So that was just a perfect setup from Zuccarello to Rossi, and he made no doubt about it. And then you see, I don't know if you saw, but they panned Ottinger and he slammed his goalie stick into the boards. You don't usually see that amount of emotion from him, but he did not want to lose that one because that was back-to-back losses for the Stars, and they're trying to overtake Winnipeg for the top spot in the in the division, but it might not be enough. But they're giving it all. We'll see.
Yeah, it was really interesting because Joey Erickson of Locked On Stars tweeted out during the third period that the Stars are getting mauled by the Minnesota Wild in the third. And we know the history between these two teams. There's a lot of bad blood between both teams. That stems from that postseason series a few years ago. It has continued. Obviously, you had Matt Dumba with the hit on Joe Pavelski in the postseason a couple of years ago. Now on the other side of it, talking trash to the Minnesota Wild before the game started. I knew the Wild were in good hands having Shooter McGavin in the X to do the Let's Play Hockey, which, by the way, outrageously good Let's Play Hockeys this year for the Minnesota Wilds. William H. Macy out of nowhere.
Yeah. What, that was so random.
They've been pulling in some hits.
Mm-hmm. People look forward to that, sometimes more than the game. Yeah,
it's great. And to quote Shooter McGavin in regards to Matt Dumba, yeah, how'd he do? I didn't get a chance to see him play. I was too busy winning. He had 3 shots on goal and 1 hit in 14 minutes. But that Dallas team, they miss Miro Heiskanen.
Oh man,
desperately.
Yeah. It is. It is rough out there. I mean, the only really defensively that you can trust out there for them is Esa Lindell. He's a rock star back there, especially on their penalty kill. But woof, I mean, everybody else is just like, oh, hide the women and children when they're out on the ice. It's not great defensively.
Yeah, we were sharing in one of the group chats. There's an account on X that does game scores for every game, and I was looking at the scores for the Dallas Stars, and it's the hockey stat cards, and the impact score that Thomas Harley had defensively was the lowest number I have ever seen, and I've been following that account for probably almost 2 years. Lowest score I've ever seen defensively for any defenseman. It was basically a -2.
That's saying a lot with what the Wild have been thrown out there. To have a Stars guy out do that. That's oof.
Yeah, that was not great. So, I am going to, before we dive into kind of what I wanted to talk about tonight, I want to give full credit to the Wild for, hey, this is a game we absolutely have to have.
They knew it too. They absolutely knew it.
And they went out and they got it. Like they didn't wait for the Stars to give it to them. They went out and took it. Yeah. So
I mean,
credit there.
To bounce back after giving up an early one to Robertson too. I mean, they hung in there. They could have just let that stack on, but they kept at it, and credit to them, and credit Gus Gustafsson to keep him in the game too.
Yeah, and penalty kill, by the way, 5 for 5. That penalty kill has been noticeably better over the last couple of weeks, and it's not as though they're only having like one opportunity here, one opportunity there. They've been tested. Yeah. In these games and have
they took a penalty right away, right? Like 15 seconds in the game.
Yeah, boarding call 15 seconds into the game. Like I saw that. I was up at my parents for a fish fry, and so I was following the game on my phone. And I saw that 15 seconds in, I'm like
against the Stars,
can we not? And then Jamie Benn gets tripped later. Yeah, heavy quotes. Yeah. But penalty kill did their job, 5 for 5. And it's a pretty lethal Dallas power play. So good work for them. But Gus continues his role. I know there's been some chatter lately about concern that he's being run into the ground, because I think he started now. I think it's 14 out of the last 15 games, which
a lot. Yeah,
is
that's
a lot.
Heavy workload.
And I charted it since the Four Nations face-off, Marc-Andre Fleury has started 4 games. And the Four Nations face-off break was done in late February. So you're talking a full month, almost a month and a half since. And Marc-Andre Fleury has started 4 of those games out of the 22 that the Wild have played. But like Gus just keeps chugging. He just keeps rolling along, and every game he plays like this, his extension goes up a little bit higher. Although I feel like an 8 is going to be it's a pretty safe bet that there's going to be an 8 involved in that. But that's an off-season topic. So a lot of credit for the win, because they played like a team that understood the urgency, and they took it to Dallas. But that makes last week all the more frustrating. So we are going to dive in to Brock Faber's comments after the Islanders game, and the notion of the outside chatter being too negative on this team. We're going to talk about that as we continue today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Indeed. You just realized that your business needed to hire somebody yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Well, that's easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored job posts put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. That's how I found some great opportunities over the summer when I was on the job hunt. 5 months is a long time to be looking for jobs, and Indeed made the process so much easier by showing me those sponsored posts at the top that I could look at right away to see if I had the right qualifications to be paired up with that particular job. So if you are looking to hire somebody right now, you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Again, we are your team each and every day. We want you to make sure that you don't miss out on the final push to the end of the season. We are all systems go, full throttle. So make sure that you stay up to date with all things Locked On Wild by subscribing wherever you listen to your podcasts. Alex, I'm sure you saw it. Brock Faber had a lengthy quote. Both Brock Faber and Matt Zuccarello. I've talked about this a lot, and it just is interesting to me. It seems like the two most consistent sound bites after games when things don't go according to plan are Brock Faber and Matt Zuccarello. Now, they talk after wins too. It's not like they lose a game and the Wild are like, who are we going to get? Let's go get Zuccarello and Faber. That's just kind of how it works out. But I found the comments interesting after the game against the Islanders, which was hideous. It was just a hideous game. You're playing an Islanders team that had lost 6 games in a row heading into that matchup. And they looked like the team that was battling for a playoff spot, even though they are out of it at this point. They were the team that looked like they were the aggressor. And you just can't have that when the postseason's on the line. You were before that game started, you were within a couple of games. Calgary was within a couple of games with 2 games in hand. They were within 4 points. Now they haven't done anything since, and the Wild obviously beat Dallas, so now it's up to 6. But it was 4 without having a chance to win that game. And you have the Rangers game before that,
Another
Rangers,
non-playoff team.
the Rangers might be one of the worst historical defensive teams in the history of the NHL this year.
It was hideous watching them play. I mean, the chances that they were giving up on their power play, like they were letting the Wild get a bunch of shorthanded opportunities. That was just careless with the puck. I don't think Laviolette's gonna make it for next season. I think his time is done there. Another retread into the cycle.
The only place left for them to go is Mike Babcock.
Oh my goodness.
Or Gerard Gallant. I heard he's available.
Don't get him a taxi.
That's a joke because Gerard Gallant obviously was there previously and was fired on the road and had to just a mess. So you squandered opportunities, squandered points at a time in the season where every point matters. And I was going back and forth with Judd Zulgad about this. It was a few games ago where the players after the game were like, we clearly weren't ready for the start of this game. And I'm like, you've played 70 games this season already. How are we at this point? And then you get this from Brock Faber after the Islanders game. Here's the full quote. It's hard to win. We're working our tails off and trying to piece together a win. It's just been a challenge. There's nothing but negativity coming from just about every single person outside of the guys in this room. And it's hard when you work a whole year and sacrifice your body and everything you can to win and just can't find one. But that's just the time of year it is. It's on to the next one. It's just we got to refocus for Dallas on Sunday and piece together some wins. It's like I said, we've been in a great spot the entire year, and there's been a really tough stretch for us. And like I said, it's every single person is negative outside of the guys in this room. So trying to lean in on each other and keep working as hard as we can, just piece together a couple points in a row. And there was a response to that. Russo was the one that tweeted it out. There was a response to that, and Russo had a reply. The response is from Todd Buto. He says, I really like Faber, and he clearly puts the effort in each game. He's young, so I get it. On the other hand, he should understand Minnesota sports and the consistent building up expectations only to fail. His chosen profession requires winning. It's that simple. And Russo responded and said, yeah, he's not the first one to say this lately. It's pro sports. Not sure how they expect positivity from fans and media when they're destroying their season. So here's what I have to say about this. It would be one thing if there were multiple factors for this stretch that the Wild have been in since Kirill Kaprizov got hurt. I understand Kirill Kaprizov is the one that drives the bus. He's the one that stirs the drink. He is the offense for this team. So you take him out of the lineup, and the expectation is that the offense is going to take a hit. I get that. That is perfectly acceptable. The problem is that every game, for the most part, that the Wild have lost in this stretch has been because nobody can get it done offensively. The defense has been fine. The goaltending has been above average even in these games. It's the fact that you have been averaging slightly north of 2 goals per game, and all of the chances in close, all of the opportunities we've seen in close that go over the net or wide or right into the goalie's midsection. And that is why I think, I get what Brock Faber is saying. It's hard to keep yourselves together when there's all this noise around you. But we have been pinpointing what is the problem for this team for weeks. and it has not changed. So that is why people get frustrated, is because it is the same thing every single game, and it does not change.
Yeah, they're professional athletes. They have, I mean, some of these guys, they aren't taking advantage of the ice time that they're given. It's so rare for this to happen, and some guys, either run with it or they hide from it. And the past week before the Stars game, that's what they've been doing for since 97 and 14 have been out. It's just been, you just shake your head at some of the losses that have occurred, and it's almost like they're backing their way into the playoffs just because the teams behind them are so inconsistent as well. And that's where the Wild banking those points earlier in the year has really helped them now, because the other teams have started to catch up, but they were a little bit maybe too far back, unless you're the Blues, who have just gone on an all-time heater, 12 in a row, which is just I'm sure Vegas is like, really, Winnipeg, you're gonna get the Wild, and we're gonna have to face this juggernaut of a Blues team that just has just taken out everybody and is not refusing to lose. That's just crazy what the Blues are doing. But yeah, I mean, it's I get it from their side too, but you have to finish at the end of the day. You're getting paid. A lot of these guys are getting paid a ton of money, and they're not producing at where they should be.
Like, let's go back to March 9th. The Pittsburgh Penguins were in town. Tristan Jarry was in net for the Penguins. He had not played in an NHL game in over 2 weeks. And what happened? The Wild did not test him nearly enough offensively, and they ended up losing that game 3-1. That's what I call squandering an opportunity. This happens a couple of years ago. Martin Jones was in net for the Seattle Kraken. There was a puck that was iced that slid past him. He didn't even see it. And early on in the game, you're like, okay, Martin Jones can't see the puck. So if you fire anything at him, you're gonna get goals. And they never tested him enough. This is not just a this year issue, but this is, and I'm gonna point again to the high danger opportunities that this team has missed. Those are the shots. Those are the shots that you have to have. And by not capitalizing on those, that's why these games have been lost. The defense has kept them in games. The goaltending has put them in position to win games. All you need is a goal here and a goal there. And the fact that nobody up until this Dallas game, nobody has consistently taken the lead. And we said this when Kirill Kaprizov was out of the lineup, is it's going to have to be those guys at the top, but it's going to have to be everybody else chipping in as well. And it has not consistently happened. And that's why they're where they're at right now.
Yeah, 100%. And, these, like you said, the margins are so close of being a playoff team, or, just, being wild card 1 or wild card 2. The difference is huge, because, they get the second wild card spot. You're going to get Connor Hellebuck. You're going to get the best goalie in the NHL. It's just, you can't make it up, especially, they have in their division, they have a couple of the best goalies in the world. You're going up against Ottinger and Hellebuck a ton, and now it's looking most likely like a Winnipeg first round. So buckle up.
It had to be Winnipeg, didn't it?
It did, yeah. And as we've seen, the games against Winnipeg have not gone well. They just dominate the Wild. It doesn't matter if it's at the X or if it's at their the tiniest arena in the NHL. And apparently they are the only ones that are able to do whiteouts.
Yeah, clearly I'm so glad you brought that up because that clearly was
Get ready for that.
Clearly was originated by Winnipeg and is something that Minnesota illegally stole. Hi, Jets fans that are finding this. There is some potential good news for the Minnesota Wild in their final 4 games of the year, which April 11th against Calgary, that is the game of the year. Mm-hmm. It's probably Minnesota is probably going to get in regardless, but you've got a chance to put a foot on the throat of the Calgary Flames on Friday.
Send a message.
We'll talk about that, but we'll also talk about a impending return that sounds like is maybe, hopefully, possibly, potentially, going to happen on Wednesday. We'll talk about that to finish off the show today on Locked On Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is so easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. You would not believe how much money I have been spending on subscriptions that I didn't even know I was still paying for. And it's hard if you are somebody that uses your bank accounts a lot, you build up a lot of transactions over the course of a day, that stuff kind of slips through the cracks. But Monarch Money had a lovely detailed breakdown of all of my spending, not only daily, but weekly and monthly too. So I could find out that I was paying for a Nintendo Switch account that I hadn't used in almost 2 years and get that taken care of, or a PlayStation Plus account. I'm an Xbox household, people. So PlayStation Plus, I don't know. I don't know where that came from, but Monarch Money thankfully helped me eradicate that. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. And once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Again, make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube so you don't miss out on any new episodes as we continue the countdown to the end of the regular season. Alex Micheletti joining us here today. And Alex, the rumors continue to swirl, which, again, it feels like there has to be any easier way to do this whole medical thing.
Well, when Jake Middleton, when they said day to day, I almost lost it. I was like, can we say anything else to describe Jake Middleton's status? I was like, day to day, we can't have another one.
I think of The Princess Bride when Mandy Patinkin as Inigo Montoya is like, you keep using that word. I do not think you know what it means. It's like they just keep saying day to day, and it's like,
what?
Are you sure about that?
Yeah. What? Did you mean multiple months?
Yeah. Do you mean we hope for a return before the end of the regular season? So the Middleton injury, we can talk about that just here before we get into the return news for Kirill. It's Kirill Kaprizov that we are hoping will return on Wednesday. But that Middleton play, that was pretty reckless by Bo Horvat. It wasn't a major. It was just, it looked so weird too. But you got to think, Middleton losing his balance that far out from the ice, the first thing he is trying to do is protect his head. Mm-hmm. Like, he's trying to protect his head and his neck from going straight into the boards.
The ref almost didn't call a penalty, which is even crazy, even wilder. He just happened. The only reason why he did is because he saw Middleton lying there, but he almost didn't even call a penalty.
Yeah, I was like, why? Like it's got to be at least, it's got to be minimum of a 2, but it should be what they should have done is they should have called it a major, reviewed it, and made the determination from there. And then, of course, the Department of Player Safety, no discipline.
Spin the wheel. It's
nothing.
Unless it's Matt Rempe, then
then we can't have fights in here. So Middleton now out of the lineup, but as we saw, Declan Chisholm in an elevated role is like the next coming of is like just a younger version of Jonas Brodin and Jared Spurgeon. When he plays on the third pairing, it's pretty bad, but who'd have thought?
He goes from Gandalf to Gollum.
Yeah, like it's just absolute pumpkin on the third pairing, but then he is the full carriage on the second line. So he will slot in to the lineup in Middleton's absence. But if it is what we think it is, concussion, it's a minimum of 7 days. The NHL actually does have kind of a concussion protocol. So a minimum of 7 days, which means if his clock started yesterday, that the earliest he would be able to return would be the April 15th game against Anaheim. So that's kind of a rough blow.
Weird team, a really weird team too. Figure out.
That's a rough blow, but honestly, at this point, with it looking more and more like the fact that the Wild will get in.
What, 91% right now? So
yeah, 91%. Get him healthy. Like if you are basically, you beat San Jose and it would take a hellacious fall off the cliff.
We've seen him do it, but yeah.
It's looking more and more like it's pretty sewed up. So get him healthy, and get him ready.
It's too important not to have in the lineup, but
yeah,
maybe that forces their hand to actually play Zeev. If they don't play Zeev, people are going to be really, really upset.
Yep.
I know he might not be Brock Faber, but you have to at least give him a chance.
Yeah.
Look at I put something out on Twitter. I was like, look at how much success the guys that are coming straight from college hockey into the NHL. I mean, Ryan Leonard just got his first goal, and he's looked like a natural out there. He's just throwing guys left and right, it's impressive to see Oliver Moore. Chicago had his first multi-point game, and he's only played a couple of games. And Renzel looks awesome out there. So I mean, these guys are transitioning right to the NHL just without any issues. So let's see Zeev.
It's a simple rhyme. Give him a shot. See what he's got. Easy.
Yes.
Just do it. I mean, we have documented.
Who wouldn't want a potential 2-time national champion to join the roster?
I don't know. It seems like he might know a thing or two about
stepping
up in a clutch moment.
A guy that might win the Hobie Baker. You don't want to don't want to add that to the arsenal.
Should probably find a way to get him in. Kirill Kaprizov, from the sounds of it, the game against San Jose is kind of the one that has been penciled in as his return.
A full practice on Tuesday. So yeah.
So that I would imagine, because I think by targeting that Wednesday game, I think you want to get him in. What would probably happen is you get him in against San Jose to get his feet wet.
Non-physical team. A lot of young guys. They aren't going to throw the body at 97.
To have him ready to go for that Calgary game, because the
Which
Calgary
will be
game
a war. Will be a war. Yeah.
The Calgary game is a great opportunity to just put the Flames away. Get them out of the playoff picture. If you beat them, you probably are, by all accounts, clinched and in. Then you can sit him against Vancouver, and you can give him, a little bit of a tune-up against Anaheim to get ready. But I think that's why they're targeting this Wednesday game, is so that he is ready to go for the put-away game against Calgary.
Yes, that it makes 100% the most sense, and it seems like they're a little bit more cautious with Eck. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, that totally makes sense with broken bone compared to what Kirill's issues major too. But yeah, just broken bone in the leg is just it seems even harder to come back from. And of course, as we've seen with him, and whatever's going on with the Swedish, it's those guys just breaking bones easier than the rest of the crew. But yeah, as we've seen against Dallas in the playoff series, he takes one wrong move and it's curtains for the rest of the series.
Yeah, and the Wild are like, well, we don't want that to happen again.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
I would rather that not happen either. It is with Eck. I was listening to the Worst Seats in the House, the most recent one, and it sounds like with Eck there are other things, there are other ailments that they're trying to get healed up as well.
The Oregon Trail for Eck.
But here's the thing. Here's the part that frosts me a little bit with Kaprizov. Even is you have to have from Russo. You have to have from what I'm hearing, Kaprizov had a good session or had good news from his surgeon in regards to his progress. It's like, what am I in National Treasure trying to solve a cipher here?
What does that mean? Yeah,
Like,
the entire season it's been like that. Just
we can't get
in riddles and circles, and
you can't get any sort of a
code
thumbs
words.
up. Like, hey, how did this go? It's like, nope, you got to go find. You have to go find the third seal
Blank clue
at the Liberty Bell, and you have to pour hot water over it to be able to read it, and it sends you to Mount Rushmore, and you have to find the door in the back of George Washington's head and find some other
a scribe written in a language you can't understand.
Like, I don't know if people can. I do not look like Nicolas Cage, so we're not. This is not National Treasure Minnesota Wild edition. Like, can we just get a straight answer? So I guess we'll see. We've got polls on YouTube right now. One of which is asking if you think Kirill Kaprizov will return on Wednesday and if he will score his first goal back in his first game back, if that does indeed end up being Wednesday. So make sure to check that out. Make sure to check out the live show coming up tonight at 8 p.m. Denny has a full plate ready to rock, talking about the win against Dallas. But more importantly, what we saw the previous week. Like, I want to give credit for what the Wild did against Dallas because it's a big game. It's a big win. Mm-hmm. But, like, those other games exist. You don't just wipe them away because you won your most recent game. It's not
the Men in Black, press the button.
I don't have the neuralizer. Like, those games still happened. So it's like good. It's awesome that they beat Dallas. It was a fantastic game, great back and forth. But like, the Islanders game was just a heaping pile of turd in a paper bag lit on fire in my doorstep. So we have to talk about it before we can move on. So that's what we got for you today. As we mentioned, we have all hands on deck for this week for the final few games of the season. We will have a live watch party on Friday night against Calgary because that is going to be the game that decides the season. So join us then. We'll probably take air slightly before 9:00 for that game, but we'll hang out while it's going on. And hopefully the Wild will be able to finally put the Calgary Flames out of their misery as we move through the final stretch. So we have all that. Plus, we'll, of course, keep an eye on Kirill Kaprizov's impending return. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. We've got them for you right here on Locked On Wild.